Have you ever wondered which borders around the world are the most dangerous? Today, we'll explore the top 10 most volatile borders where conflicts, illegal activities, and historical animosities continue to pose significant threats. Stay tuned to discover these hotbeds of tension and why they remain so unstable. Number 10. Yemen-Saudi Arabia border. Countries involved: Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Length of the border: 1,307 kilometers. Formed in 2000, the Yemen-Saudi Arabia border is plagued by conflict and instability. Over the past decade, the border has become a battleground due to smuggling activities, militant incursions, and refugee movements. The smuggling of weapons into Saudi Arabia has been a particular concern, prompting the Saudi government to construct a wall and fence along the border. However, Yemen opposed this construction, claiming it hindered shepherds' access to grazing fields. The situation escalated dramatically in 2015 when war was declared between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Thousands of civilians have since lost their lives, and multiple missiles have been launched into Saudi territory. The conflict has caused significant humanitarian crisis, with millions of people displaced and in dire need of aid. Despite international efforts to mediate peace, the border remains highly volatile, with frequent skirmishes and cross-border attacks. Number 9. Iraq-Iran border. Countries involved: Iraq and Iran. Length of the border: 1,599 kilometers. Formed in 1988, the Iraq-Iran border has been a hotspot for conflict since the early 20th century. The most notable conflict was the Iran-Iraq War from 1980 to 1988, sparked by territorial disputes and political differences. The war resulted in massive casualties and widespread destruction, leaving deep scars in both nations. Despite the UN peace resolution signed in 1988, tensions have persisted. Sporadic clashes and cross-border attacks are not uncommon, keeping the border area on edge. Both countries have fortified their border regions, and military presence remains high. Smuggling and illegal crossings further complicate the situation, as both sides struggle to maintain control over the porous border. Number 8. Ethiopia-Eritrea border. Countries involved: Ethiopia and Eritrea. Length of the border: 1,033 kilometers. Formed in 2000, the Ethiopia-Eritrea border has been a flashpoint for conflict since Eritrea gained independence from Ethiopia in 1993. The two nations went to war from 1998 to 2000 over border disputes, resulting in tens of thousands of deaths and displacement of people. The war officially ended in 2000 with the Algiers Agreement, but tensions have remained high. The UN peacekeeping mission established to monitor the border faced numerous challenges, including non-cooperation from both sides. In 2018, a peace agreement was signed, and relations between the two countries improved significantly. However, sporadic clashes and mistrust continue to make the border region volatile. The presence of landmines and the militarization of the border add to the dangers faced by civilians living in the area. Number 7. USA-Mexico border. Countries involved: USA and Mexico. Length of the border: 3,145 kilometers. Formed in 1828, the USA-Mexico border is one of the most frequently crossed borders in the world, yet it is also one of the most dangerous. The border is a major route for drug trafficking, human smuggling, and illegal immigration. Mexican cartels have a strong presence in the border region, leading to high levels of violence and crime. Number 6. Russia-Ukraine border. Countries involved: Russia and Ukraine. Length of the border: 2,295 kilometers. Formed in 1991. The Russia-Ukraine border has been a major flashpoint since the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. Historical grievances, such as the man-made famine under Stalin, have fueled animosity between the two nations. The situation worsened in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea, leading to international condemnation and sanctions. Number 5. Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Countries involved: Afghanistan and Pakistan. Length of the border: 2,640 kilometers. Formed in 1893, the Durand Line, the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, is a major hotspot for militant activity, including Taliban and Al-Qaeda operations. The rough terrain and weak governance make it difficult to secure, leading to frequent cross-border crimes and military skirmishes. The lack of cooperation between Kabul and Islamabad exacerbates the instability. Number 4. Chad-Sudan border. Countries involved: Chad and Sudan. Length of the border: 1,403 kilometers. Formed in 1960, the Chad-Sudan border has been a flashpoint for conflict due to internal strife and ethnic tensions. The civil war in Chad and the conflict in Darfur have spilled over into the border region, leading to violence and instability. Sudan has historically supported Chadian rebels, leading to cross-border raids and violence. The situation is further complicated by the presence of refugees and internally displaced persons. Both countries have deployed military forces to the border, but the lack of infrastructure and difficult terrain make it challenging to maintain security. Number 3. Israel-Palestine border. Countries involved: Israel and Palestine. Length of the border: undefined. The Israel-Palestine border is a symbol of ongoing conflict and territorial disputes. The lack of a definitive border and the continuous skirmishes, particularly around the Gaza Strip, have kept this region in a state of perpetual conflict. The situation remains one of the most contentious and volatile in the world, with significant humanitarian implications. The Gaza Strip, in particular, has seen frequent clashes between Israeli forces and Palestinian militants. The blockade imposed by Israel has led to severe economic and humanitarian crises in Gaza. The West Bank also experiences regular violence, with Israeli settlements and military operations creating a tense environment. Number 2. Indo-Pak border. Countries involved: India and Pakistan. Length of the border: 3,323 kilometers. Formed in 1947. The Indo-Pak border, particularly the Line of Control (LOC), is a flashpoint for military and militant conflicts. Frequent cross-border shelling and militant infiltrations make this one of the most dangerous borders. Both nations are nuclear-armed, adding a layer of global concern to their ongoing hostilities. The border has seen numerous conflicts since the partition of British India in 1947, most notably the wars in 1947, 1965, and 1971. The Kargil conflict in 1999 further strained relations. The presence of heavily armed military forces on both sides increases the risk of escalation. Civilians living near the border frequently face shelling and displacement, making everyday life perilous. Number 1. North Korea-South Korea border. Countries involved: North Korea and South Korea. Length of the border: 250 kilometers. Formed in 1953. The Korean Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, is the most heavily fortified border in the world. Established after the Korean War, it is a site of ongoing military tension and occasional skirmishes. The area is a stark reminder of the unresolved conflict between the two Koreas and remains one of the most dangerous and unpredictable borders globally. The DMZ is lined with landmines, barbed wire, and guard posts, with both sides maintaining a significant military presence. Despite being a site for peace talks, the border has seen numerous incidents, including defections, firefights, and propaganda broadcasts. The North Korean regime's unpredictability adds to the tension, with periodic missile tests and military exercises heightening the risk of conflict. International borders can be gateways to cultural exchange and economic cooperation, but as we've seen, they can also be sites of intense conflict and danger. If you found this information insightful, make sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more intriguing content.